Imagine waking up in the year 2050. You stretch lazily and your bed gently lifts you upright. The room senses your presence, adjusting the temperature and slightly illuminating the walls. The doors slide open and a shiny white robot steps inside your room with your breakfast already prepared. Exactly what you wanted, before you even knew it. You don't know what day it is, because it doesn't matter anymore. No emails, no morning alarms, no meetings. AI orchestrates it all. The world bends around you to eliminate every inconvenience. It feels like paradise, and maybe it is, and we build it relentlessly, brilliantly. But what if, in building this paradise, we're quietly changing the rules of the game, the very structure of life itself? What if, in seeking a world of comfort, we start losing the will to be human? We're not just building a better world, we're trying to build one with no struggle at all. That's our ultimate goal, to make life effortless. And maybe that's a problem, because for most of our human history, life followed a well working pattern: struggle, action, growth. It is how we build knowledge, character, and everything we today call progress. Yes, life was tough, but we dealt with it. When something hurt, we fixed it. When things were hard, we made it through. And through that effort, we became stronger. This was our rhythm of life. But the fundamental shift is happening. We're not just solving problems anymore. We're handing them over to systems that think, decide, even anticipate for us. The AI revolution unfolding right now. We set the car to self-drive, and suddenly we realized our hands are off the wheel. The car didn't crash, it stayed in lane, smooth, precise. But we are no longer steering. And when we don't steer, when we let go of struggle, the rhythm starts to fade. Without the effort, there will be no action and no growth. We didn't plan to give up control. We just kept choosing what felt easier, again and again. In the last few years, there's been a lot of concern raised around AI. And one word keeps coming up: displacement. And when most people hear that, they usually think about losing their jobs. And yes, this is a valid concern, but displacement goes deeper than that. So let's see how this looks like in real life, not in the future, but today, with the technology we already have. Roomba vacuums, great, no more cleaning. Smart lights, they turn on automatically when you enter the room. Amazon deliveries, you get the notification, but you didn't even hear the garage door opening. Convenient, and it is. But if you zoom out just a little bit, you can see how strange this is. It's kind of a displacement from the everyday things we used to do ourselves. Sure, those day-to-day chores are small and easy to give up. Nobody wants to clean floors. But let me give you another example that feels different. In colleges today, it is common to see students using AI to write assignments. That's not a surprise anymore. Actually, it would be a surprise if they didn't. However, what is also becoming common is professors using AI to grade those same assignments. It is faster, more consistent, less biased. But wait a second here. An AI is writing assignments and another AI, or maybe the same one, is grading them. So who is teaching? Who is learning? The process still happens right in front of us, but we, the humans, are no longer in it. You can already see how absurd this is. And if you play it in your head, you can see how stranger it has the potential to become in the future. This is a displacement from the process of teaching and learning. Humans like solving problems, that's what we do. And to us, labor physical or mental, looks like a problem, an obstacle to overcome. And in our technological age, automation is what we turn to. So anything that can be automated will be automated. Every process, every profession, every choice. I call this automation plus one. One more task, one more decision, one more layer of life, quietly handed over. Until it's all handed over. So what is the harm in all of this? The things are still getting done, right? No matter that we are not the ones doing them. Floors are clean, packages arrive, assignments are written. The processes we are familiar with remain, but we are slowly being edited out. Like animals whose territory shrinks as the forest is cleared, the same way we are shrinking our territory within life itself. Yes, comfort has a price. So let's examine that price through the lens of science and philosophy. We will start with something simple, the rules of evolution. In June of this year, MIT scientists published a study called Your Brain on ChatGPT. It examines what happens in our brains when we engage in essay writing. So volunteers were asked to write essays in several sessions over a few months. The participants were split into 3 groups. The first one were asked to write those essays without using any external tools, only their brains. The second group were given access to a search engine such as Google search. And the last group were allowed to use ChatGPT. Here's some of the findings. The first one is interesting but probably not so strange. The more external tools you use, the less your brain will be active. So the people who used only their brains, no external tools, had the most brain activity, the ChatGPT group, the least. And that makes perfect sense because if you offload your thinking to someone else, in this case the AI, you'd obviously think less. Here is another finding. When scientists asked the participants to recall what they wrote, the ChatGPT group struggled. They had a hard time recalling from what they wrote, from their own work. The experiment continued. The ChatGPT group were asked to write one more time in one more session, but this time without the use of AI. What scientists found is that some of the brain activity recovered, but not fully to baseline. The conclusion is simple. The AI makes the job easier, but at a cost. Less thinking, less memory, less ownership. And this isn't just about essays. We've already been edited out for quite some time in the name of ease. We used to memorize phone numbers, now we don't. We used to do math in our heads, now we don't. We're outsourcing our sense of direction to GPS. And now, bit by bit, we're giving away our creativity to AI. So what do you think happens with those neural pathways when we stop using them? They weaken, like muscles, is what neuroscientists say. So it's the same like our bodies. We used to have tails when we needed them to climb trees. Now we don't. Evolution takes away what we no longer use. So if we're not careful, we might start evolving in reverse. Science explains the how, philosophy asks the why. So let's take a step back here. Let's talk about meaning. Why are we here in this world, living this life? Why? It's a big existential question, but it sits at the very heart of what we are facing today. Albert Camus, the French philosopher and Nobel Prize winner, spent most of his life wrestling with that question. He called it the absurd, the gap between our desperate search for meaning and a silent universe that offers no answer. But Camus didn't think we were doomed. He believed meaning isn't found, it is made by rebelling, by moving forward, even when it feels pointless. To show this, Camus turned to the myth of Sisyphus, a man condemned to push a boulder uphill for eternity. A task with no end and no payoff. But still, Camus imagined him happy, not because the boulder moved, but because he chose to push it anyways. The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart, is what Camus says. Because the struggle is the meaning, that choice is the rebellion. This is what makes us human. And maybe this is what we're in danger of losing. Because if AI takes away the boulder, if we eliminate the effort, if we smooth out all the resistance, we might be throwing away the only answer that ever worked for us to explain why we're here on this earth. And this isn't just a philosophical problem. We have already seen this in real life. There is an experiment famous among behavioral scientists called Universe 25. In the late 60s, early 70s of the last century, a researcher decided to build a utopia for mice. Unlimited food, perfect shelter, zero predators, abundance, paradise. As you can imagine, at first the mice flourished. But then things changed. They stopped mating, stopped parenting. Some overgrown, others turned violent. Eventually, they stopped doing anything. Within 2 years, the colony went extinct, vanished. Joe Calhoun, who is the researcher behind this experiment, repeated it more than 20 times with the same outcome. The collapse didn't come from disease. Calhoun said it came from a breakdown in social behavior, often seen as lack of purpose. They died from comfort. Universe 25 gave us a cold warning, but we are not mice, we are human with agency and choice. The game isn't over, but the rules are changing. A new world is here and it's accelerating faster than we can grasp. In heading towards 2050, we'll have more time, more resources, and more freedom to do whatever we like. But with that freedom, there'll be a balance to hold. A balance between the power we gain through AI and the awareness of what that power might cost us. And a choice between ambition, choosing to grow even in the shadow of AI, and surrender, stepping back believing there's nothing left for us to do. We'll have to adapt to a new world that demands a different kind of strength, not to survive anymore, but to remain human. And this will require purposeful, deliberate effort, the one we choose consciously. Maybe in the future, choosing effort will be like going to the gym, something that we schedule just to stay alive inside. So tell me, what will you still choose to do when nothing is required of you? Will you still write, even if AI can write better? Will you still learn if there's no job at the end of it? Will you still cook when a perfect 5-course meal comes with a push of one button? That choice is still ours to make. Thank you.